I, 32 male, am divorcing my wife, 33 female, after finding out that my 5-year-old son is not mine. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I found out that my wife cheated on me 6 years ago. The way I found out is that her sister told me after going to visit her to find out how the delivery of her first child was. She confessed to me that 6 years ago, my wife told her that she slept drunk with her best friend. In her words, my wife was very sorry. At the time, she told me I was with my son, and immediately after leaving her house, I went to take a paternity test with him, fearing the worst. A week later, I get the results, and my fears came true. My son is not mine. For some reason, I began to see the boy differently, more as an acquaintance than a son. With proofs in hand, I confronted my wife at night when the child was sleeping. She asked me who told me, and I simply told her that it is none of her business. Although, obviously, it will not take long to connect the dots that it was her sister. Well, that is not my problem now. Regardless of that, I asked her for a divorce, which is now in process. She was devastated. She swore to me more than once that nothing happened with anyone again, that she has been faithful to me in body and soul since then. I held back the urge to insult her to avoid complications during the divorce issue, not believing a word she said, mostly blaming the alcohol instead of taking the blame herself. After talking about it, she threatened me, saying that she would demand full custody of the child. I was so annoyed at that moment that I told her, okay, I don't want anything to do with something that is not mine, that she keep the child and I'll keep the dogs. We have 2 dogs that we adopted as puppies, and they are currently 8 years old each. After my words, she tried to convince me to take care of the child with her, that I am his father. At that moment, I exploded. I was so angry, and I had held back so much the urge to scream that I just yelled her to go and take her bastard with her. A week has passed since that, and I am at home. It is in my name because it is a gift from my parents. She went to her parents' house with her kid. She has not called me since then. She left with everything and the half-asleep kid when I yelled at her, especially since it was the first time I really yelled at her. It sure affected her. I talked to my parents, and my dad told me that I did the right thing and that I shouldn't be raising something that is not of my blood. And I agree with him. However, the pain is still there. My younger brother told me to write here to entertain myself. I am currently seeing a therapist 3 times a week who told me that I have already taken the first step, which was to leave behind what causes me pain. It just hurts to know that my family no longer exists. Regarding why my sister-in-law told me everything, according to her, she felt guilty seeing me always happy with my son, knowing that he may not be mine, and that the fact that we went to visit her in a moment of weakness caused her to completely break down with guilt. I don't know how true that is. I just know that right now I feel tremendous hatred for my wife, and a feeling between pain and resentment for the child, although it's just time to get ahead. I just hope the divorce goes smoothly. We have separate financiers and properties, and if she really asks for child support, I have proof that it's not mine. According to my lawyer, that's more than enough if she tries a legal process for that. My therapist also recommended that I not see him nor her, that regardless of the child's feelings, I should focus on my own first, that the child is no longer my problem, and the sooner I accept it, the better. Sorry for the misspellings. English is not my first language. The child has a father, and the mother knows exactly who he is. I find it odd that so many are trying to guilt trip this man into taking on a lifetime burden while being reminded daily of his wife's infidelity. This type of fraud is uniquely one-sided. Because so many of you keep responding to me, I'd like to point out to you that this man's right to choose was taken away. It's the same logic of forcing a woman to give birth. Agreed, so many simps. Exactly. These scumbags are telling us to become cucks. This child is a result of a man other than himself banging his wife, and I now need to take the responsibility to take care of this kid? Fuck no. First off, I am a woman. Secondly, it takes a tremendous set of balls for a woman to tell a man that he should love and accept a child that he was deceived into believing was his just because the child will suffer. We as women will never experience what it's like to be deceived in this way and have no jurisdiction to tell a man that he's wrong for immediately distancing himself from said child in these situations. OP, you cannot put anyone's feelings before your own. If at some point you come to be able to functionally have a relationship with the child, then that would be great. But that shouldn't come at the expense of your own mental well-being. Do not listen to anyone who tries to make you responsible for harm or cruelty to the child that the woman who tried to pass him off as yours inflicted because she couldn't take responsibility for her own selfish actions. You dropped this crown. Thank you, you have common sense and empathy. It's sickening how some of these comments can't comprehend how this is probably one of the most devastating things to go through ever as a man. It's disgusting. All you people saying that he is an AH and that he needs to raise this child, and he is the only father this child knows. Take into account that every time he looks at his child, he will be reminded of how badly he was hurt, how badly he was manipulated into wasting 6 years of his life with a cheater who had to know there was a chance this kid wasn't his. Every time this child calls him dad, it will tear his heart out further. He wanted his child, to raise his child, to see his child grow up, not be a secondary contributor to a person who he, in the end, has zero connection to and will ultimately have zero rights toward. Stop telling this guy that he has a right to do this. His wife was supposed to have some kind of decency to not be a POS and cheat on him. She didn't hold up her end of the agreement, but you all think he should still bend over backwards to be miserable the rest of his life. Y'all talking real crazy out here. The dude said how devastated he was and how hard it is for him to get over this infidelity, yet y'all want him to act the same with the literal embodiment of that infidelity? Weird. No, I'm not saying the child deserves this devastating change in his life, but neither does the OP. And if y'all would actually stop and think, y'all would see it was she who caused this detestation, not him. No one deserves to must live a lie just because it was a successful one for many years. And y'all know nothing about this woman, her family, or the biological father. Maybe it's better there is a clean cut with the child so that other bonds may form. Yes, it takes a village to raise a family, and if he decides to part of that village, more power to him. But if not, not. No shame in that. That village causes him pain anyways. Y'all talk from the peanut gallery about the sanctity of the child and the duty of a man who is hurt and looking for psychological relief from betrayal. Y'all ask for that. At least empathize first. At least, because the last thing you actually want is for him to be around a child he resents, and that is a symbol of hurt, failure, and betrayal. Instead, y'all look at this child in a vacuum and preach like y'all believe it'll get you into heaven while disregarding the obvious hurt and pains this must all have caused. Y'all are literally asking him to be on the hook for this lie for a lifetime just because she was successful at keeping it for 6 years? Crazy. DNA testing should be mandatory at childbirth to avoid dishonesty. It isn't fair to the man nor the child to find out the awful truth years later. Yes, it's been suggested a million times already, and I don't know why they don't just offer it as an option at the hospital, because then less men would pay for the children and more women would need money from the government. This is Reddit, so the misinjury was to be expected. Flip the roles here and every 30-year-old single cat lady on Reddit would be telling her to divorce and leave the man to be a single father, to work on herself and then find another man who deserves you. Disgusting. The guy is in the right. Worst form of betrayal. He needs to divorce and move on from this and never look back. So many people here expect Up to throw away his life for another man's kid. It's insane. OP, I think you're looking out for yourself, and you even have support from your family, a therapist, and a lawyer. I'm sorry you feel pain from believing you created a son. And if it helps, imagine this child growing up and being told by his mother that he doesn't have a father because of her mistakes. He won't blame you. He'll be upset at her, just like you are. OP, those that criticize your decision miss a very crucial part. Choice. People that adopt children or become step-parents, they do so because they choose to do those things. You did not choose to raise another man's child. You were lied to and betrayed. The child will forever represent that betrayal. Move on. Many people from two-parent homes are in therapy, so that factor contributes nothing. Take care of you, have your own biological children with a faithful spouse. I feel bad for the boy. He's only known you as his dad, and now his world will be destroyed, especially now that you don't want anything to do with him. I just don't see how you go from loving a child for 5 years, raising him to suddenly not giving a shit and treating him like a stranger. He's the only person innocent in this story. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think about this? If you are a man, how would you act in a situation like this? And if you're a woman, do you think it's fair to your partner to cover up such an act?